Welcome to What's Up with Bowling Green Winlectric. We're your go-to podcast for lighting tips, interior design insights, and expert advice on all things home, electrical, and design. Join us as we chat with local guests, electricians, and designers as we dive into the world of DIY tips, building ideas, and indoor-outdoor home solutions to help you create the perfect ambiance indoors and out. Hey WCOU listeners, this is Sean with Winlectric for our second season, episode 3 of What's Up with Winlectric. And it is titled Biggest DIY Lighting Mistakes. Oof. Well, today we're joined with Scott Bledsoe from Buck Electric. Scott, if you wouldn't care, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your background.
Okay, well, good afternoon. My name is Scott Bledsoe with Buck Electric. I'm an electrician, 20 plus years. I am a licensed electrician. We run a crew in town in Bowling Green mostly, and surrounding counties, Glasgow being one of them. And we do a lot of service work, new construction homes, remodels, commercial buildings, a lot of anything electrical.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I like the way you said crew. I'd say it's a little more, I think most people call it crew maybe like 4 or 5 guys. I mean, how many guys? Y'all run like 6 or 7 trucks now.
We have 11 trucks out on the road at all times. So
11.
Yeah, so we do have a few guys out running around. So it's great advertising unless we accidentally cut you off on the side of the road.
In which case you don't know who that was. Somebody stole your truck.
No, we have GPS on all trucks. We know exactly who they are. And so we apologize and go about our day, but we are sorry for that.
Yeah.
So.
No, but one of the reasons I kind of wanted to point that out about how many trucks you have is it gives you guys a great ability to be able to help with service calls, like somebody in the spur of the moment has an outage or something. You guys are able to jump on that.
Yes, yeah, you're exactly right. We try our best to take care of emergencies as quick as possible, and then everything else is just all about scheduling. So
right. Which one of the reasons I pointed out about service calls kind of leads into what we're talking about today, which is DIY lighting mistakes.
Yeah,
so
there is some good ones.
Yeah.
There is definitely some good ones. We hear them on the phone. People call us. They're stressed out and wish that we could help them.
Yeah. So, what is what is one of the biggest or maybe most common DIY mistake that you guys see?
The shortcuts that people do that really they don't understand the concept of what they really need to do. It's the shortcuts to get out of working more is the fun things that we see. A lot of times people just don't really understand how something works, and they try. They watch a YouTube video, and they do try, or they come in to win, and your counter guys are great, and they'll try to work them through it, and sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't.
Yeah, that's we definitely love to help people, but sometimes we have to step back and be like, listen, we can give you some very minor advice, maybe what product to use, stuff like that. But if we we can't get into how to wire your house up. Like that's why you need to contact a licensed electrician.
And I help out people on the phone all the time. They'll call, and honestly, I do. I really try to help them on the phone. But a lot of times, these DIY lighting projects, they get overwhelming for people.
Oh, yeah.
Placement, the types of fixtures they use. It's not as simple as just taking a light fixture down and putting one up. We don't get those phone calls. A lot of people can fumble their way through that with no issues.
Right.
It's when they start trying to add lights in an older home.
Oh, yeah.
It starts getting kind of, they'll call and be like, I added these and they were fine, but then after I started using them, now everything's flickering. Something's going on. I think something's wrong. Can you look at it? And, and instantly, we start looking at the age of the house and things like that.
Right. So. One of the things that really, I'm going to say, scares the bejesus out of me is that people, if you want to frame something up in your home, you want to change some flooring, you want to maybe even do some plumbing work, that's not an issue where you might cost someone's life. You trying to do electrical work and you don't know what you're doing, or you do something wrong, you could burn your house down.
Or we've seen where people have energized water fountain. So when they put their hands on it to get a drink of water, you could feel a tingle, and they're like, we don't know what's happening, and why is this happening? And they unfortunately hook the ground up with the neutral, and of course, then they're feeling that unused current off the neutral wire.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, so getting shocked from that is something that simple. They were like, well, I thought it would be just easy. I just moved a plug down, and they just didn't know what colors. Everything's color coded.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they got confused and hooked it up incorrectly.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we see on the weekly. It is crazy.
Yeah. So one of the things you mentioned about color coding, I remember a customer that came into the store, this is years ago, and they addressed it like it was a radio.
Positive and negative.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's not like that, man. Like, it's not like you need to call somebody, because at that point, like, you're just going to continue to, and he was like very adamant about it. And I don't, there's been times, unfortunately, where at the store I've had to just say, look, man, you're going to hurt someone. You need to call a licensed electrician. But so a lot of the issues with I'll say issues, but a lot of the mistakes that people can make really don't have anything to do with the light fixture itself, but what they're doing to install it, or what they're doing, how they're mounting it, things like that.
Correct. And like I was telling you on the shortcuts, sometimes they get in their kitchen and they're like, I'm just going to put 4 recessed cans in. That's all I'm going to do. Or the new LED wafers, and they get them in and they're like, man, I took this one light fixture down and I put 4 in. Why don't I have better lighting? And, so I start talking to them about beam spread and, well, I mean, you start talking to them about things that kind of overwhelms them a little bit. And I'm like, hey, we really needed to add more. Your ceilings are only 8-foot ceilings. The light doesn't have enough room to really expand out and light this. Well, really, we only wanted to spend $100 or so. We didn't really want to spend more, So we have a tendency on our new construction home, and if we did your home, you'll know that we are definitely an overbuilder. Mm-hmm. And so I'd rather somebody be mad at me for having too much light, and I can install a dimmer for them, than after they move in and go, man, I really wish we had more lighting in here.
That's one of the areas that I have had so many conversations through the years is, well, I just really don't think this area needs that many can lights.
Right.
I'm like, well, first off, I'm glad you don't think you need that many.
Exactly.
But would you rather, this is a would you rather thing, spend $50 more to add one today, or $75, or however much it is that your electrician would charge you, or would you rather pay $500, $600 later down the road to add one?
Or, they add the 4, and then, of course, you need to be symmetrical with your lights.
Oh, yes.
And so then they add the 4, you come back in, and you're like, well, you need probably 3 more. But if you wouldn't have put them in this design, we could have easily added them. And now they're going to have drywall repair, because then we're putting them in the exact proper spot they needed to be, and causing them more money on that.
Right. Well, that's, bringing up the drywall repair is a very good point, because a lot of times people think they're saving themselves money by doing ABC initially themselves, where if they had just brought somebody in, they could have saved themselves a lot of money in the long run by doing it right the first time.
Exactly. We say that all the time, of course. Yeah. Some of the biggest complaints, and you were talking about, or I brought it up on the new LED stuff. A lot of these older homes, there's shared neutrals throughout the whole house. Ooh. And so what happens is they'll be like, I installed these LED lights and now they're flickering really bad, and they really don't have, I call it clean power, where, and that's one of the biggest DUI things that we're in there fixing. I start talking to people about harmonics and how that can cause LED lights to flicker, along with other, power quality issues. Premature failure. I mean, that happens a lot, of course. On how harmonics, create distorted voltages, and that makes the LED lights all have drivers in them, which you understand that. And a lot of people don't understand that the LED bulbs, you've got 120 volts coming out of the receptacle or the switch, but then your LED bulb, depending on where it come from, it could be a 12-volt LED bulb or 24 or 48. There's a driver inside there that does not like dirty power. And so you'll get flickering from that. Your HVAC stuff will come on. It'll give your house a big load. And the next thing you know, your lights are flickering at you. And you're like, what did I do wrong? And it's not something that they did wrong at that time. But if we would have ran a new circuit for that and got clean power back there and not shared with all the shared neutrals houses prior to, I would say definitely 2000 and before, you know, but I mean, those are the things that we try to fix, and we could have done that in the very beginning when we were there explaining that. And not just from the customer's point of view. Sometimes electricians will go in and do something and they can't get it right. And they're not thinking about that's the reason that it's doing that.
Well, and you know, quite frankly, it's really understandable. You know, guys come in all the time asking us, well, what could cause this problem? You know, and we have, it's not the same with LED as it was with incandescent and, you know, fluorescent, where you 1, 2, 3 things, that was all it could be. You know, now it's like, well, are you running your microwave? I mean,
you're exactly right.
You know, or did you turn a light on the other end of the house? Like,
harmonics is a big thing. I mean, those equipments, you know, speakers and surround sounds produce that. We've actually had dimmers that reacted differently when the customers and our clients were actually dimming their dimmers, and then it was interfering with the speakers.
Yeah. But you guys, because of your experience, if you go in the first time, you can possibly keep that from happening.
Exactly. You're exactly right on that. 100%.
So, if let's just say somebody's called you with, you know, hey, I'm worried about this fixture because of something or whatever, lighting wise, or even if it's not lighting, just in their electrical system. What are some kind of safety red flags that they could kind of look for to know if they really have an issue or not?
Well, you know, the good news is on houses prior or newer houses 2004 up, most of them are arc fault protected. Right. And so a lot of times with those breakers, very specialty breakers, they're going to trip if the sun shines differently one day versus another. But if they are having, you know, breakers tripping constantly, things like that, there could be an issue with that. In your older homes that don't have these arc faults, those are the ones that are going to be more hard to really figure out if there's a red flag on it. Right. But especially if a breaker trips in those, you know, you're definitely going to need to look into why every time you go into so-and-so's room that you flip the switch and it trips the breaker. You know, you really need to keep that switch off and figure out what's wrong with that fixture, or maybe even the switch problem, or, you know, something in that nature, or it could be wiring. You know, there's animals up in the attic that we've seen animals, you know, chew through wire, of course. Sure. So,
one of the things that, again, I mentioned before, I'm like, that just really scares the bejesus out of me is when a homeowner comes into the store and they're like, you know, I turn this light switch on and my breaker trips. So I want to upgrade this breaker to a bigger breaker. And I'm like, dude, tell us, the audience, why that is a horrible decision.
Yeah, so the reason you have a breaker is the breaker is protecting actually not yourself, but it's actually protecting the wire size. So let's say a lot of houses are built with 14 gauge wire, and we're allowed to put that on a 15 amp breaker. So let's say you say, man, I think I'm overloading that. I'm just going to throw a 20 on it. Or, hey, I'm really overloading it. I'm going to put a 30 amp breaker on it. So that means that you're going to be allowing 30 amps going across a wire that's only rated for 15 amps. And so worst case scenario, what could happen is that wire would actually melt down and break down. And that would be in the walls. And unfortunately, you can't see that.
Right.
And a lot of insurance companies have gone away from fuse panels and being able to insure your house because it's on a fuse panel to a breaker panel, because most people won't change a breaker out. They really won't. But back in the day, the fuses, you could put almost any fuse. You could put a 30 amp fuse in a 15 amp socket and no problem. And you've heard the horror stories of people putting a penny behind it where it's unfused. But that is the true reason behind the breaker. Not only is it protecting, you know, an overload situation or a dead short situation, it's protecting that wire size. Right. And then also the piece of equipment that it's on is protecting that. So that piece of equipment, your AC unit, will only allow to pull this much power. So they're there for safety. And that is one of the biggest common things that people call us on and be like, well, just put a 30 on it. And I'm like, we can't just do that, you know. So So yeah, that is definitely a big one.
Yeah. That's, like I said, that's terrified me in the past. So at what point would you, as a professional, tell a homeowner, look, this is kind of where I would draw the line between a safe DIY project, which you don't. Again, you mentioned before, you're glad to try to help somebody over the phone. I've seen you do that a ton of time, by the way, at the counter.
I do that at the counter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm there, and I just cannot help somebody. They're standing there, they're explaining to you guys what you need, and I'm like, hey, listen, let me help you. It just makes it so much easier. Right. I know that I can walk away, and they can maybe do it.
So what that tells me, as just an individual myself, is that you're not in this just trying to make as much money as you can.
No.
You will help somebody if
no,
you can.
You could. I mean, we have 600 phone calls a month, and
Good grief.
and so there's no way I can go to all those
Right.
at one time, and so I honestly, if I can talk you into pushing your GFI, the button for resetting, that saves us from going over there.
Right.
I jokingly say, because I'm usually on the phone with them, and they're like, I don't see nothing. I'm like, hey, look, you'll see maybe a red light. Well, there it is. And then they'll push it, and I'll be like, just slide your credit card in the phone. And, I jokingly say that. And they're like, well, tell me how much I owe you. Call me when you need something for real.
For real.
So, I mean, a simple swap out of a fixture, if you feel comfortable doing that, I consider that safe. Do it. I have no problems with that at all. Installing receptacles and switches, I think that's really I mean, I know it's super easy, but you can do those incorrectly.
Sure, you can.
And you get a 3-way switch, and a lot of people, because they'll call, hey, I put new switches in. Okay, great. Well, now these switches don't work.
Yep.
And I'm like, is it a 3-way? Well, what's that? And well, can you control that switch from 2 entrances of the room? I sure can. And I'm like, okay, well, did you notice when you took the wires off what color the screws were on this? No, I just threw them away.
Yep.
And I'm like, without an electric meter, it's going to be really hard to tell you. But I can tell you over the phone how to do it. It's just going to take you some time. And you may trip the breaker 10 times.
Yeah.
But you could figure it out. And then at that point, they call me, and I go, and I'll fix it for them. And we can definitely fix it quick. We understand how a 3-way works. It's no problem. But simple swap outs, I have no problem with that. And if you think you can change out a GFI and know what line and load is, and I explain that on the phone all the time. And if they don't have a meter and they don't remember how they took it apart, you really don't know. There's there's only a guess. So I have no problem with simple swap outs of fixtures and small things like that. But when you start doing the wiring, I would recommend just giving us a shout, or anybody, not just us.
Sure. So what we kind of mentioned it before, is there anything that you would add to the conversation about hidden costs if, as a homeowner, you do get something wrong?
Yeah, I mean, poor workmanship. I mean, of course, if you're trying to do it, you don't know the right way. So let's say you're trying to flip the house and you did all this work. It looks beautiful.
Right.
You get a home inspection. They tear you up because open junctions in the attic, which you didn't know that was a rule.
Right.
You can't just have wires up in the attic. The cost of that is, what if we have to cut a bunch of drywall? Then we're back in there, and next thing you know, we've got 10 holes everywhere, but everything's wired back to right and perfect. But poor workmanship is one of the biggest. I call it handyman wiring is what I call it. So.
Yeah. I've experienced that a number of times myself. My daughter's kitchen that we remodeled a while back, got in, pulled out the above range microwave, and the receptacle with the Romex wire was hanging out of the wall, with the receptacle hanging on it and duct tape around the receptacle.
Duct tape is nice.
Yeah.
For construction.
Yes.
We have electrical tape.
Duct tape.
Yeah, duct.
Yes.
Duct with a T.
True.
Duct.
Very, very,
Duct.
very good point. So I've also seen, of course, in places where they can use wire nuts. They just tape to.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you twist it hard enough
if
and
you
then
twist
just
the
tape it up, I mean.
Oh, come on, that's true. Yeah, the tape.
Don't try that at home.
It just
don't.
The tape will eventually turn into a wire nut.
Yeah. Eventually.
I don't think that happens.
No, that's not going to happen. So.
No. So, another thing too, maybe you can just briefly talk about. I get a lot of people that kick back as homeowners saying, well, what difference I don't care if that's code or not. What difference does that make to me?
Yeah, that is true. Somebody that really is going to care about the code is your insurance company. And so let's say you decide to do something. You did it on your own. Unfortunately, something bad happens. The insurance company gets involved, and they're like, Well, that's not right. It's not that hot tub's not GFI protected, and they're going to say, well, who did it for you? And you're going to say, I did it myself. Your insurance company's going to frown upon that.
Yeah, not only frown, they may not cover.
They honestly probably will not.
Probably will not.
So, or if they did cover it, you won't be able to afford insurance in the future.
So it's funny you mentioned about. Oh my gosh, you mentioned so many things that just like bring up memories for me. Where I had a customer one time try to argue with me about why do they need a GFI protect their hot tub. Are you kidding me? What is the purpose of a GFI, Scott?
Ground fault protection, of course. So it monitors the voltage on the neutrals and grounds, and if there's any variances, it's going to trip.
Right.
And it's going to trip quicker than you can get out of the hot tub and turn the breaker off. Okay. So it's a must. I mean, so if the water got energized and it was not ground fault protected, and it could happen easily.
Sure.
You could get out of the water that's energized and ground yourself to something, and then you would complete the circuit, and then that means you could get energized.
And the thing is, you may not necessarly know that you're getting energized when you're in the pool.
You could swim
or the hot tub.
You could swim in a pool or a hot tub that has electricity flowing through it, and then you're fine until you reach out and ground yourself on something. That's completing the circuit. So when we do a swimming pool bond grid, we have to have 3 foot from the edge, 3 foot bonded. And that means it's got to be a ground wire in that concrete. So usually, I guess 3 foot, you can't reach out further than 3 foot maybe, but you would touch something before you do. But the 3 foot's the code. So, so that's the reason that anything is GFI protected. And of course, with the new codes that we're having, they're GFI protecting pretty much commercial kitchens right now. Everything is GFI protected. Residential's getting there. It really is. But they're starting to GFI protect your AC units outside. Anything with like the AC unit with the metal housing. So if that metal housing accidentally got GFI or got energized, that GFI would trip that circuit off.
Right. So. I guess that just kind of shocks me that people would try to bypass things that are literally a life safety device.
A lot of people don't know. They just don't know.
Good point.
Or they go and they look at the breaker and they're like, but that breaker's $20. That GFI is $100.
Right.
And I'm gonna go with the cost effective.
And that's just shocks me that people would put $100 bill as a price tag on somebody's
all the
life.
time though. Yeah. Money comes down to a lot of it, and it's all the time.
Right. So to kind of close out, what information would you like to pass on to WCLU listeners of ways to avoid DIY lighting mishaps or electrical mishaps?
Consult a professional.
Boom.
Talk
to a professional.
Yeah, it really helps. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I'll be glad to come over and look at it. I give free estimates, and I could talk to you about it. And we can go over what I would do on it. I have no problem with that sharing. I teach every day. I've got employees that we talk about how to do things, and so I have no problem sharing that knowledge with other people on how I would do the layout. If I walk out of that house or commercial building and I don't do the job, it's fine. I have no problem with that. But with that said, it's really hard to give somebody the green light on something that you walk away and you're like, there's no way they can do this. But they may try. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the point about the free estimates because, as you know, we go to job sites as well, and we don't charge anything for that. And I'm so surprised sometimes that a homeowner's like, oh, I don't want you to have to come out. I'm like, look, I'm charging you the same for that light fixture.
No matter what. Well, how many times have I had Emily at the lighting, front of the lighting? Yeah. Hey, can you go out and look at this? Yeah. I need you to go through the house. She'll go out and she'll make a wish list up for everybody, and have on y'all's program that you have on the internet, website. The good website, and she'll make that up and get it all taken care of. Or John, when I have him go out and look at parking lot lights. Yep. That's just recent. He was there yesterday. Trying to get a parking lot layout, and you guys can use that program that you have that actually says how many lights that we need. Yeah. I use him all the time on that. Yep.
And I'm just so surprised that people.
Well, but I never got charged for that. You guys have never charged me to come out and do that.
We didn't charge you.
Not one time.
Who do I need to talk to about that?
Benton Jolly. Benton Jolly.
No, but that's just the same. We operate the same in that consulting. there's no fee to that.
No. Why would there be?
Right.
I mean, so there is none. We're trying to earn your business, but also we want to earn your trust.
Exactly.
And so, we have used Winlectric for a long time, way before I was in it, and then really, I've been in it 21 years, and we always come in.
You're an old man.
I am old. I am very old.
21
Not as old
years.
as you. We've already talked about that. But
Gosh, we didn't have to say that.
well, I don't have gray in my beard. I don't have a beard though.
You got gray in your hair.
I do have gray in my hair. But yeah, so you guys really help us out a lot, and not only, and I want to hit really hard. Not only are when people's buying light fixtures, I want to go with you guys on your service. Like, I have a problem with a light fixture. You sold it to me. All of your LED products have a 5-year parts warranty.
Yes.
I mean, I sell that to people. You go into a big box store, I won't say names, most of that stuff is 1 year. And then if you look at it, once you buy it, it says do not return to store,
yes,
that you need to go somewhere. So I can walk into you, and I have all the time, hey, I installed this in 2019 or 2020. You look it up, there it is. Well, now it's 26. Those would be out of warranty. But, no questions asked. You hand me a new one.
Yeah.
And so to me, that and the LED products that you guys sell are also top notch. We don't have issues with it. We're not buying them and installing them and then going, oh, it doesn't work, and wish we'd have bought something better.
Right. Well,
quality.
quite frankly, you'd let us know if it didn't work, and we.
Oh, we do let you know, and you know that. So, and Sean's laughing because he knows that we let him know. So, but no, I mean, so the service portion of it for you guys. The capabilities of like you guys coming to our job sites and letting us know how many lights is going to light this building up that we need is amazing. Yeah. So we appreciate you guys on that.
We appreciate you saying that, Scott. So that on that note, since he talks so well about us, I guess we'll close this episode out. So, Scott, thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate you. Thank you for the coffee.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Savannah, for the coffee. Yeah. Yeah. And so that'll close out our episode today on biggest DIY lighting mistakes, which ended up turning into a little bit more about mistakes in general with electric, but we're glad to hear all that. Scott had a lot of good information to share with us today. Hey, don't forget us whenever you got a question, not just myself, Winlectric. Scott Bledsoe,
with
Buck Electric. Would you like to share your phone number?
270-843-9995. Call, text, that's the number to use.
Yeah.
So.
It's been a while since I've seen Scott because he's only in the store like 5 times a day. So
it's been 8 hours.
When you're running 320 trucks on the road, then you got to get a lot of parts for that.
You do have to have a lot of parts. So.
Hey, guys, thank you so much. WCLU listeners, this is Sean at Bowling Green Winlectric with What's Up with Winlectric. Thank you.